In the span of 30 minutes, 3 lives changed forever. Jeremy Mira lost his freedom. Juan Cerda and Gregory Stewart
Our son is not here.
lost even more. And while every crime is conceivably preventable, Mira's deadly robbery spree would have never been possible if not for a Texas law.
We are duty-bound to follow the law.
State officials knew Mira had a record of violence and by its own admission knew this troubled teenager needed intensive surveillance.
On top of his paper, mind you, it said high surveillance.
And yet, Mira was discharged from the Texas Youth Commission and placed back on the streets with no state supervision. All because Mira was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
How did they let him go back into that situation and then just be on the street to go murder 2 people?
Despite success at school, by age 14, Mira found himself in trouble.
He was easily influenced by these people.
After being involved in an armed robbery of a cab driver and numerous fights at school, Mira was sent to the Texas Youth Commission. His sister Elizabeth Mira says she thought this would finally fix his behavior.
We kind of thought about it like a sort of a boot camp. That's what we thought.
But when Mira failed to show signs he was progressing in the state's rehab program, the Texas Youth Commission discharged him. The commission says it had no choice, not after Mira was diagnosed with a mental illness.
If the law says that we are to discharge somebody and they meet all of the criteria, you know, at that point, I think, you know, we are duty-bound to follow the law.
A state law meant to prevent mentally ill teenagers from being held in detention centers sent Mira back home without parole and without what his family says was any guidance.
You don't just cage somebody up or jail them for a year and then just let them go and turn your back on them.
This now father quickly fell back into old habits, and in May of 2006, along with a group of friends, Mira went on a robbery spree that turned into murder. 45-year-old Juan Cerda was their first victim. Minutes later, an off-duty police officer became their second.
Ever since he was a little boy, all he ever wanted to do was be the patriot. He was a patriot. That's what he did.
And that's what Gregory Stewart did that night for a final time. The former Marine, Beeville police officer, and member of the National Guard stepped in between the robbers and a friend. He was then shot and killed.
If Jeremy had not been on the street, what happened that night would not have happened.
In the past 5 years, 197 juvenile offenders have been discharged and put back on the street because of a mental illness. Of those, 43 have reoffended. They have robbed, assaulted, even killed.
Once they leave TYC, we have no jurisdiction over them any longer.
The Texas Youth Commission admits these juveniles have fallen into a gap of service, one it's working to fill. Since our investigation began, the Commission passed a new rule allowing the agency to obtain a court order to require these mentally ill offenders to seek treatment.
That would provide some sort of accountability for them once they are discharged from us.
The Commission says more changes are in the works, but for a troubled teenager,
When they shut the door on my brother, it's like that was the end of my brother right there.
an innocent victim, and a man who devoted his life to help.
We don't get to talk to our son anymore.
These changes
We don't get to hug him. We don't get to welcome him home.
come too late.
Our son is not here.
With the I-Team, Brian New, Kens 5, Eyewitness News.